Ella Jane Fitzgerald entered the world on April 25, 1917, in Newport News, Virginia. Born to William and Temperance Fitzgerald, her early days were shaped by disruption and instability. Before she was even 3 years old, her father left. Temperance soon moved with Ella to Yonkers, New York, where she began a relationship with Joseph da Silva, a Portuguese immigrant who took a passive role in the girl's upbringing. Ella's world consisted of street games, church songs, and make-believe. She danced and mimicked musicians she heard on phonographs and the radio. She adored the Boswell sisters, especially Connie Boswell. "My mother brought home one of her records, and I fell in love with it," Ella would later say. "I tried so hard to sound just like her." That early fascination with phrasing and tone would steer her path, even through a childhood that often veered off course. When her mother died unexpectedly in 1932, Ella's life was thrust into chaos. She was just 15. She moved in with an aunt, but the emotional toll of grief and poverty proved too heavy. She began skipping school, got into trouble with authorities, and was eventually sent to the New York State Training School for Girls in Hudson. Accounts of abuse at the reform school would follow her, though Ella rarely discussed that chapter. What's certain is that she emerged hardened and desperate, but with her voice intact, and possibly stronger. In 1934, as the Great Depression strangled opportunity, Ella entered a contest at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. She'd originally planned to dance, but intimidated by a duo who performed just before her, she switched gears and sang instead. The audience, known for being merciless to amateurs, fell quiet. She sang Hoagy Carmichael's Judy and followed it with The Object of My Affection. When the crowd erupted in applause, something shifted. She won that night, and though it didn't lead to instant success, the experience planted a seed. Musician and bandleader Chick Webb heard about the teenager with the peculiar voice and reluctantly agreed to audition her. Webb, short in stature but commanding in musical leadership, ran one of Harlem's hottest swing bands. At first, he resisted bringing her in. He thought her look too plain, her stage presence too uncertain. But once she sang, doubts dissolved. He hired her as a regular vocalist. With Webb's orchestra, Ella developed her unique control, honing the blend of warmth and agility that would become her signature. In 1938, she recorded A Tisket, A Tasket, a playful reimagining of a nursery rhyme which became a national hit. Suddenly, the girl who once had no home was being heard in homes across the country. Chick Webb's death in 1939 put the young singer in a difficult position. At just 22, she was handed the leadership of the band. Few believed a woman, let alone a black woman, could manage a full orchestra. Yet, she pressed on, keeping the group together for a time before eventually stepping away and beginning her solo journey. Through the 1940s, Ella toured relentlessly. She worked with Benny Goodman, Louis Jordan, and the Ink Spots. Jazz clubs became her sanctuaries. She pushed herself musically, venturing into scatting, a form of vocal improvisation where she turned her voice into an instrument. Songs like Flying Home and Oh, Lady Be Good would establish her as a fearless performer who could take melodic risks and land them with uncanny ease. Her collaborations with jazz greats were not just business arrangements, they were artistic unions. Dizzy Gillespie took her under his wing during bebop's explosion, while others struggled to navigate the complex time signatures and chromatic runs. Ella glided through them with charm and accuracy. She had no fear, Gillespie once remarked. She just did it. The 1950s brought a new chapter, largely thanks to impresario Norman Granz, the founder of Verve Records. Granz became her manager and protector, fighting segregation by ensuring Ella and her band were treated fairly on tour. When a Houston hotel refused her entry due to race, Granz threatened to cancel the performance. The hotel backed down. More than management, Granz had a vision. He wanted to match her with the works of America's greatest songwriters. What followed became the Songbook series, a sprawling collection of albums featuring the music of Cole Porter, George and Ira Gershwin, Duke Ellington, Rodgers and Hart, Irving Berlin, and others. These weren't small undertakings. Each album was a tribute in depth and craft. Ella didn't just sing the lyrics. She gave them breath, spun them with joy, or draped them in melancholy. Her version of Summertime could ache with sorrow. Her Let's Call the Whole Thing Off could dance with mischief. Her phrasing, always clear and unforced, gave new life to old standards. The series introduced her to a broader audience. Critics who once overlooked swing vocalists began to write glowing reviews. Her albums charted consistently, and she began performing in the world's most famous concert halls, from Carnegie Hall to the Sydney Opera House. Public success did little to shield Ella from personal hardship. Her first marriage, to Benny Cornegay, a dock worker with a criminal record, ended in annulment after a few months. In 1947, she married jazz bassist Ray Brown. They adopted a child, Ray Jr., and for a time, their union looked promising. But their careers pulled them in different directions, and they divorced in 1953. Despite the separation, they remained friendly and often performed together. Ella found solace in motherhood, but balancing her career and family weighed heavily. She tried to keep her son out of the limelight, yet the demands of the road made it hard to be present. Later in life, Ray Jr. would describe her as loving but distant, always moving, always working. While she avoided scandal and gossip, Ella's health began to falter in the 1960s. She was diagnosed with diabetes and struggled with vision problems. Still, she continued to perform at a pace few could match. Those close to her described her as shy, almost painfully so. She didn't crave interviews, avoided Hollywood-style parties, and was uncomfortable in designer clothes or expensive jewelry. Offstage, she was modest, even awkward. But on stage, she glowed. Her generosity was quiet, but far-reaching. She donated to child welfare programs, music education, and civil rights causes, often without publicity. She hated conflict and rarely spoke ill of others. Her kindness extended to crew members, waitstaff, and young musicians alike. She treated the janitor the same way she treated the conductor, said one road manager. And yet, for all her fame, she remained somewhat elusive. She didn't reveal much of her internal life, preferring to express emotion through song rather than confession. As she aged, Ella's ailments worsened. Diabetes led to multiple hospitalizations. Her eyesight faded, and circulation problems plagued her. Still, she performed when she could. In 1986, she gave a memorable performance with the New York Philharmonic in Central Park. Her voice, now weathered, still held beauty. By the early 1990s, she had undergone several surgeries, including the amputation of both legs below the knee. She retired to her Beverly Hills home, surrounded by music, family, and the few friends she trusted implicitly. In June 1996, she asked to be taken outside. Sitting in her garden, listening to birds and sunlight filtering through trees, she whispered to her nurse, "I'm ready." 2 days later, on June 15th, she passed away peacefully at the age of 79. News of her death rippled across the globe. Tributes poured in from presidents, musicians, fans, and friends. Radio stations cleared schedules to play her songs. Concert halls dimmed lights. Even those unfamiliar with jazz paused to recognize a woman whose voice had graced their childhoods or brought solace in quiet moments. She was laid to rest at Inglewood Park Cemetery in California, beside her sister Frances. Ella Fitzgerald recorded over 200 albums, sold more than 40 million records, and won 13 Grammy Awards. But numbers alone cannot describe what her music gave to people. Whether singing a lullaby or riffing on a bebop tune, she made each note honest. She didn't shout or show off. She let melody speak. Her name endures through foundations, music scholarships, and even a postal stamp issued in her honor. Her records remain in print, Her filmed performances are widely accessible, and her story continues to inspire. Younger singers, from Diana Krall to Alicia Keys, cite her as a beacon of excellence. But perhaps her real measure lies in quieter places: a diner jukebox, a memory of dancing in the kitchen, a tear during Misty. Ella never demanded attention, she earned affection, and in doing so she gave the world a rare kind of magic, one that still stirs the heart with the opening bars of a familiar song.